Buenas noches. Good evening, everybody. I want to thank, first of all, my wife, my life's companion for the best years of my life to be here. My dear neighbors, Van and Sherry, and of course, Brooke, Twin Lakers, my family here in Austin. Lynn, my dearest friend at Republic. I was very lucky when I came to this country to find friends like all of you guys. Thank you very much. Anyway, Lynn asked me to talk about myself. If I tell you about myself, we're going to have breakfast. It's going to take a long time. I've been in the liquor industry for more years than you have, many of you of age. I was vice president for Brown-Forman for Latin America, the Caribbean, and Mexico. That's Jack Daniels. I introduced Jack Daniels in those territories. And one of the funny things is in Brazil, they call Jack Daniels the American bomb. But they drank it, and they loved it. I was there for many years, and then Hiram Walker, which was a classic, beautiful company. You remember that, Lynn? And they owned Kahlua and Courvoisier and Beefeater, Ballantine's. And to make story short, I was world vice president for Sauza, Kahlua, Beefeater, Courvoisier, etc. And then came to the States. We lived in Mexico City. Hiram Walker was bought by Ally Domecq, and they threatened me to put bodyguards to follow me around. And when my wife and I decided, that's it, we're out of here. So we came here because Kathy's family moved from Nebraska to Austin, and we loved it ever since. Became a legal alien not long ago. I was a legal alien. But anyway, that's very fast my life history. I was related to the tequila. I have the best tequila makers are very dear friends of mine. Sauza, of course. But I have to tell you, I never drank it. No, that's not true. They told me, Pepe, you have to make your brand. I said, get out of here. I'm retired. And Van was telling me my retirement lasted 6 months. And they dragged me back into the industry. It's in my blood. I love it. It's a people's business. It's not a laptop business. But anyway, things are changing, but we're not going to change. We're still the same. To make story short again, they told me now you have to call it Don Zevada. And my friends who were in New York, when I didn't say, what do you mean Don Zevada? Don Julio is dead, Don Eduardo is dead. The hell got Don Zevada? Everybody knows you as Pepe. My real name is Jose. You know? But Pepe is a nickname for Josephs in Spain. That's a nickname. You call him Joe's, we call him Pepe's. That's why everybody knows me as Pepe. So to make story short, we started the project about 6 years ago. We launched it in Austin 3 years ago with the help of very dear friends, the Jabours, Twin Lakers, my grandparents, or godparents, right? And thanks to all of you, we've been very successful. And there are two beautiful ladies here that I wanted to leave for last that have been great help. They're very loyal, and they love the scene. Tracy and Sean, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, you see, I've been very lucky. How do you make tequila? Tequila came out of really nothing. The Aztecs in Mexico didn't know the art of distilling. They fermented. And they ferment a juice from an agave that's not the blue agave, it's another type of agave that they call pulque. They fermented that liquid. And pulque is one of the most horrible things you can ever see in your life. It's slimy, stinky, it's horrible. And that's how they got blasted. That's more than 500 years ago. But they didn't know how to distill. We Spaniards brought the art of distilling to Mexico. And the legend says that one stormy night in Jalisco, lightning struck one of the agave plants. And it obviously boiled it or burned it or whatever the heck. And they noticed, the Spaniards, that the animals came very happily to drink, what was left in there. So they said, well, there's a juice that comes out of these plants. Let's distill it. And that's how, actually, tequila started being distilled in Mexico probably in the early 1700s, late 1500s, early 1600s. The tequila that was made then, you couldn't even smell it. It was absolutely horrible. Tequila has had a huge process of perfectionism. Tequila, when Kathy and I got married, nobody drank it. It was a low-class drink. In 30 years, the tequila has become such a sophisticated and beautifully made spirit that's unbelievable. We are very proud to have a boutique distillery. We're not an industrial tequila by far. And we follow the old steps on how to make a tequila. And if you notice, I'm not drinking water. I never drink water. It's bad for you. I'm drinking silver on the rocks. Anyway, they say that the number one, the most important factor in tequila is the plant. The blue agave takes from 7 to 10 years to mature. They're all different, like your kids. The same father, the same mother, but they're all different. We plant the babies, the agave plant, when it's about 2 years old, grows little agaves around it. We transplant them, and we put them in the baby field. And those little guys are the same age, and some of them 7 years after are perfectly mature. And the other guys, 9 years, and they're still screwing around. What the hell is the matter with these guys? So it varies a lot. One of the things we do, and this is very important, we never use a young agave. Never. Cut corners. If you use a young agave, it's like using a green orange. Very little juice and bitter. And that will screw up completely the taste of your tequila. Big time. So, first law we have, non-breakable, very mature agaves. And the funny thing is, when you see the agave plant with all the spades, they look like swords sticking up, you say, oh my God, that's beautiful. That's young. You don't need that. And when you see the agave plant with all the leaves folded and looking horrible, that's one. And you take it out, and the pineapple might weigh up to 200 pounds. You never heard about the pineapple, have you? You don't know what I'm talking about. When you cut the leaves of the agave, you're going to get out a big ball. It looks like a pineapple. That big ball is where all the juice is. And it looks like a pineapple. That's why we call it a pineapple. So, that's a damn big pineapple. So anyway, first, never harvest a young agave plant, ever. Second, the agave, we take it to our distillery, and we cut it in 4 because it's very, very big. And we cook it. We don't use autoclaves. The autoclave is very fast. It cooks the plant in 9, 10 hours, 11 hours. But it's dry, it's steam. It dries the plant. And before I continue, you have to know tequila is a very delicate spirit. It contaminates very easy with everything. So you have to be very careful on the process of making it and distilling it. So we cook it in brick ovens, the old Spanish brick ovens, 500 years old. Well, ours is not that old, but the same old ovens. The process takes 3 days to cook them. But when you open the ovens, you see the juice just oozing out the plants, beautiful. And you taste it, it's honey, it's great. After we do that, we ferment. Now, that's another thing. I told you about the age of the plant, the brick ovens, and fermentation. If you use a cheap yeast, you can use beer, bread yeast. Your process is done in 1 hour. I mean, 1 day. That will affect, again, the taste and the flavor of the tequila. We cultivate the agave, the yeast from the agave plant. So we use the yeast from the agave itself. The process is 3 days. After we ferment, we distill. We don't use, it's very fancy to say we use copper pots. We don't use copper pots. Copper pots are great for brandy, for scotch, for heavier spirits. Tequila is a very thin spirit. That's why it contaminates easy in terms of flavor and color. So we use a short column. Why a short column? You distill in tall columns, short columns, or copper pots. In Europe, all the monks and all the, because the monks were the ones that taught us all how to eat and drink. I don't know why, but they were very good at it. They use copper pots. They have heavy spirits. Am I right, Mr. Lola? Thank you. So the short column is a continuous distillation, never stops. So you don't have to cut distilling, cut what we call heads and tails. The heads and tails is a bad alcohol. The one that causes the horrible hangovers, the headaches, the horrible taste next morning and all that. That's the heads and tails. If you use the tall column, you have to cut distilling, get all that stuff out and distill again. In our process, it never stops. So the methanol, which is about alcohol, just blends out and almost disappears. We are the three of the lowest content of methanols in the industry of tequila. Every batch we make goes to the chamber, the tequila chamber, their labs, and they have to check the contents of methanols. And then they tell us, this is good, bottle it. And since we started, we are first and second of lowest methanols. And the first one is another tequila in our distillery that we only sell in Mexico, so we're even. And we're very proud of that. So after we distill, our distiller, and Americans ask me, you have a very good distiller? I said, yes, we do. It's a great master distiller. Is he an ethnologist? I said, no, not really. But this guy was born in a tequila barrel. He's been doing that for 50 years. And his father was a master distiller, and so on and so forth. This guy's great. He told us, I need white oak from Spain, white oak from the United States, American oak, Canadian oak, and Limousin from France. So we got in the oak, we put the silver in all of these barrels and waited 6 months. We came back and got it out and looked at it, sniffed it, zipped it. And finally he said, I need Canadian oak. I said, why Canadian oak? Because of the tannins. Canadian oak tannins will contaminate the least the flavor, the tequila. The other oaks are too heavy. They're great for scotch, they're great for rum, they're great for cognac, not for tequila. We don't char our barrels, and we don't use bourbon barrels. We don't make bourbon, we make tequila. Okay? So we char the barrel very, very lightly because of the glycerin in the barrel. So it holds better. Okay? The color you're going to see is totally natural. No caramel, we don't use any additives. It's 100% organic. Now, put it on the barrel. The silver, the Mexican law states that you should put the silver, the distilled spirit, 5 days in stainless steel and add water to lower the alcohol content. So you can bottle it or put it on the barrel. We leave it a month. And we don't use water, we use distilled water, demineralized, so the minerals won't contaminate the flavor again. So we leave it a month, so the marriage occurs. And the marriage is the blending of the water and the spirit. After the month, we bottle it, or it goes into the barrels. The reposado, which is the green Z, stays 9 months. And the añejo stays a year and 9 months. And year, 9 months is not exact, it's average. Again, our ethnologist goes, checks it, and says, bottle it or leave it another month. And then comes the very important part, the filtering. Even though the spirit is beautiful, you must filter it. We use ceramic filters that won't contaminate. And again, this little guy is a master. And he knows when to stop the filtering, tastes it again, all of it, and says, let's go. So more or less that's the history of our tequila. If you have any questions, please